go see this movie. That's Hardball for now. Thanks for being with us. Countdown with Keith Olbermann starts right now.
Oh, hi. So what's new? I don't want to minimize my gratitude to you for the kind of support that's usually reserved for, like, Chilean miners. I'll be talking about it and the issues and the rest of my little adventure later in the show, but I need to address one thing right now. I read in a couple of places that this has to have been a publicity stunt. This was not a publicity stunt. Of course, if I had known that all this would happen, I would have done this years ago!
Which of these stories will you be talking about tomorrow? The president and the word jihad. He's just not bloodthirsty enough for the radical right.
The phrase jihad has a lot of meanings within Islam. And is subject to a lot of different interpretations.
Mr. Obama delivers platitudes.
This great religion, in the hands of a few extremists, has been distorted to justify violence.
Why couldn't he just say jihad killed 3,000 Americans?
You mean the way President Bush was unflinching and black and white about it in 2005?
These extremists distort the idea of jihad into a call for terrorist murder.
What the right is really saying. The hesitant prey is an Muslim May. Our special investigation reveals the real evidence of Mr. Obama's real religion. His favorite team, the Chicago Bulls, who just happened to play in the same division as the Milwaukee Bucks, whose arena just happened to be known as the Mecca. Coincidence? The Wall Street Shuffle, big business's latest fix, avoiding taxes on their big bonuses. My special guest, Michael Moore, including his response to shots taken at him by President Bush in his new autobiography. Bush versus reality. Waterboarding?
So if it's legal, President Bush, then if an American is taken into custody in a foreign country, not necessarily a uniformed
Look,
American.
I'm not going to debate the issue, man.
The Tea Party rallies against Michelle Bachmann. Ron Paul endorses her opponent for chairman of the House Republican Conference. Plus,
Bachmann is just a loudmouth.
And so how was your weekend?
Because MSNBC has a hard and fast rule that political donations represent bias in journalism unless you ask first.
All the news and commentary now on Countdown. You ready? Here we go. Good evening from New York. This is Tuesday, November 9th, 728 days until the 2012 presidential elections. President Obama spent the night in the world's largest predominantly Muslim nation, Indonesia. This leg of his 10-day Asian tour cut short, though, preventing him from visiting the homes where he lived between the ages of 6 and 10, or the schools, Catholic and secular, which he attended. But in our fifth story tonight, even though the trip will advance U.S. economic interests and cooperation in the fight against terrorism, Mr. Obama came under fire here at home for failing to use anti-Islamic rhetoric. The trip cut short to prevent the airborne volcanic ash of Mount Merapi from interfering with Mr. Obama's takeoff for the G20 summit in South Korea. Indonesia, of course, has been a target for Islamic terrorists who struck in Bali and Jakarta in the years after 9/11. And the president, who has disappointed some in the Muslim world by doubling down on Afghanistan, made the argument to Indonesian Muslims that he still believes the U.S. is on the right path to eliminate some of the mistrust that still remains of the U.S. Of course, Obama's boyhood years in Indonesia gave fodder for those claiming he is a Muslim, despite the fact that his first school there was named St. Francis of Assisi. So, not surprisingly, Mr. Obama's critics have seized on his remarks earlier in this trip about jihad in another country plagued by Islamic terrorism, India.
My question to you is, what is your take or opinion about jihad or jihadi, whatever is your opinion? Like, what do you think of them?
Well, the phrase jihad has a lot of meanings within Islam. and is subject to a lot of different interpretations. I think all of us recognize that this great religion, in the hands of a few extremists, has been distorted to justify violence towards innocent people that is never justified.
On Fox News last night, even though Mr. Obama's phrasing might help win Muslims to our side, even though he is attacking al-Qaeda ferociously, President Obama was criticized for not tossing, quote, most Americans some saber rattling.
While soothing words can help persuade peace-loving Muslims that we are not the enemy, I'll submit to you that most Americans don't want that kind of presentation exclusively. To be fair, Mr. Obama has attacked al-Qaeda ferociously and is not backing down from the Taliban in Afghanistan, but he simply will not define the overall jihad problem in any meaningful way at all.
Perhaps you'd like to look the word up, sir. It was the Bush administration that decided not to talk about, quote, jihad. Former Bush Undersecretary Karen Hughes, quote, whenever they hear Islamic extremism, Islamic jihad, Islamic fundamentalism, they perceive it as a sort of attack on their faith. Or, as President Bush put it,
these extremists distort the idea of jihad into a call for terrorist murder. Some call this evil Islamic radicalism, others militant jihadism, and still others Islamofascism. Whatever it's called, this ideology is very different from the religion of Islam.
for an assessment